Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 26 of the Daddy Brigade podcast. I'm Keith the Bearded Tank.
I'm Zach the Tactical Gnome.
And this episode, we got a special guest with us. Why don't you go ahead and introduce him there, Zach?
Well, if you folks have been paying attention, I've kind of hinted to the fact that we were going to have a special guest on tonight. And I have heard this gentleman talk several times on the Primary and Secondary podcast and a couple other podcasts. And I reached out to him, and he was generous enough to come on this evening. Tonight we have the bearded legend, I will say, Ash Hess, from Knight's Armament and Quantified Performance. So Ash, for the folks that don't know who you are, why don't you give us a little background on yourself?
So, basically, the short version is I did 22 years in the Army, deployed 4 times, 3 times to Afghanistan, 1 time to Iraq. In between all those deployments, on one of the deployments particularly, the first one, I realized that Army people don't train shooting correctly. And I realized that when I shot a guy, and he didn't do what we advertised, the whole one shot, one kill, that thing.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later. I've got a 500 grain rule. That only works with really big guns. So shot a guy. The advertised stuff didn't go very well. We eventually dropped him, but it took a whole lot more work than advertised. So after that deployment, I got to go to another class. Deployed after that. I got my first Army shooting class in. Deployed after that. Applied a lot of that. Came back, did more shooting in between deployments. Learned a bunch of stuff there. Deployed again, started applying a bunch of more of that sort of stuff, and that kind of snowballed into me running the course that I'd went to in 2005. I actually got to end up started running that course. So what happened from there is that spun into ended up writing the marksmanship manual for the entire Army. Worked on that for rifle and a pistol, and got to shoot with a bunch of guys, got to be friends with a bunch of guys. And that just kind of turned into basically, I'm not a professional shooter, but I shoot and talk about shooting and do stuff like this podcast, do that pretty much for a living. So not a pro shooter, like I don't wear a sponsored shirt or anything like that. I couldn't get sponsored, like we were talking about a little bit earlier. I couldn't get sponsored, so I started my own company. So now I'm sponsored by Quantified Performance because I own it.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, that was the easiest way. I wasn't good enough to get sponsored by a real company, so I just made one. But the trying to figure out the nooks and crannies and the little tiny parts about shooting and doing a lot of shooting. During that 3 years that I taught, I probably fired 1,000 rounds a month for, other than like December, I was probably firing 10 to 12,000 rounds a year for 3 years straight.
Wow.
So in that you find everything you're doing wrong, find out ways to fix it, and then you can see what other people's doing wrong.
That's insane.
My guys that were with me, my crew, we could duplicate, like if you shot a group, we could lay down without even seeing you shoot that group. We could see the group, and we could pretty much duplicate that group. So, because we were shooting that much, we could make the group do what you did, and then we're like, hey, what I had to do to make this group that way was do these things. So, and the guys would be like, yeah, I kind of felt like I did that. Well, don't do that. So,
don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that anymore. It works better. But we learned a lot of things. Like I say, made a bunch of friends. They say surround yourself with people that are better than you. And I've been able to do that. I've got people that write better than me. I've got people that talk better than me. I got people that shoot better than me. I got all these people that I can look to them and be like, hey, man, what am I doing wrong here? What am I doing wrong here? Help me out on that. So that's the really short version. I know that was long, but that's the short version.
That works. So I've listened to several interviews with you on from Primary and Secondary. Listened to your one on to a lifestyle or the 2A podcast that you just recently did. How did the whole idea of quantified performance come about?
So after I got out of the Army, because I was my last job title in the Army was the marksmanship program developer for the U.S. Army Infantry School. So I was basically the guy for small arms training in the Army, because the infantry school controls what the Army does for shooting. They're the proponent for it. So I was the guy. I was like, there's AMU and they have their voice and everything, but when it comes to the qualification and what Army dudes are shooting and when and all that sort of stuff, I was the dude. When I left the Army, I was just the Knights Armament sales rep. And that says a lot in itself, right? It's not that's bad, but when you go from being this dude in the Army to, something that's not that, I wanted to stay basically relevant in the shooting community, because without that, I wasn't shooting competitively. I wasn't running classes. I just wanted to be, basically relevant and stay in the game. So my boss decided that we were going to go shoot the PRS gas gun series. So this is 2018. And I was like, what is that? He's like, oh, you're going to shoot really small targets really far away. And I had been doing lots of CQB stuff. A lot of my classes I ran, I could run them in less than 200. I did a couple classes in 50 yards. That's what I was shooting fast. I was shooting, I was trying to get down, below 0.2 splits and stay inside of A zone, stay on my feet all the time. And I was like, I don't know anything about shooting long distance. And he's like, well, you better learn. You're the marksmanship guy. Figure it out. So for 2018, we shot the PRS gas gun series, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about shooting from people around me. I've been doing all the shooting. I've been shooting or typing about shooting or talking about shooting for 5 years. And then when I started shooting these matches, I learned a lot, not about like combat marksmanship or anything like that. I just learned a lot about, what's important, because the only thing I had was what I had talked about. So I just went into there and I was like, hey, I typed this stuff for the Army, and I said, the Army's going to do it this way, so I'm going to apply that. And throughout that series, learn more about long-range shooting, and I got a guy for that too. One of my good buddies was a sniper instructor forever. So get with him and texting with him and calling him. And then I kind of caught the competitive bug, because with that competition, I can do shooting. I can do what I know. I don't have to try and teach classes. I just go out there and I perform. Not with the team. It's just me, the clock and the targets. So I really enjoyed that, because I wasn't being based off of how well I did a podcast, or, how well my message got across, or if this guy in the class didn't like me. It just, if he didn't like my personality, if I cussed too much or any of that sort of stuff, it was just me shooting. And I did fairly well in the series. There was for the tactical, the division I was shooting in, I think there was it was 80 people throughout the year that shot. They were actually part of PRS. Because you got to pay $100 a year, $125 a year to be part of PRS. The matches had generally between 80 and 150 people at them, and we did three matches, something like that. And then, but at the end of the series, at the end of the year, I had placed 5th.
Wow!
So I did fairly well, in that. I started off. I was, one of the matches we shot, there was 80 people shooting it, and I think I got 21st. So I was, my first match, I was solid, but I wasn't good, not by any means. I was there. I shot bullets, and but as the matches went on, and I learned more. And so we drove to a lot of those, because the company vehicle and all that with Knights. It was and Knights basically sponsored us for that, because it helped sell guns. So because we're not making bolt guns, we're not making any of these things. So taking the guns there, doing well, company was like, hey, this upsells guns. So what we drove from we're here in Florida. One of the matches was in West Virginia. One of the matches was in Kentucky, and one of the matches was in Dallas, Texas. And we drove. So we talked a lot about, making a little company and doing some stuff. When you're driving from Dallas to Florida, even just Florida, I think Florida from where we are in Florida through the Panhandle it's like Texas.
Yeah.
Because you get into Florida just by Mississippi, you still got to go past Alabama, past Georgia.
Yeah. I can vouch for that. I have driven that.
It's not fun.
That's like driving across the state of South Carolina.
Yeah, and it was just a lot of miles, and so then there was one more match because we shot 3 because we were supposed to shoot 4, and we were really happy because the finale was going to be, it was like November was supposed to be the finale, and it was here in Florida, so it was only a 6-hour drive. So we were like, all right, cool, because it was on the other end of the Panhandle, but we're like, man, that's an easy drive compared to these other ones. And, well, then nobody signed up for the finale. And because what was happening with the series was participation was dropping, and then participation dropped, sponsors drop. And when sponsors drop, participation drops more because I'm not going to go there and win anything. The matches are still $250, and there was like 4 prizes on the table. So people want to win things. And then, so when they canceled the finale, Precision Rifle Series decided to cancel the gas gun series for 2019. So that left us with no matches to shoot. And so we had the competitive bug. It was good for business, night's business. And then
what happened?
Uh-oh. Give us a second here, folks.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Hold on.
There you go.
Still there?
Video's still there. Uh-oh. Oh, no. We lost him. Give us 1 second here. He comes back. There we go.
There you go. we got this one might be better. I've got 2 different, I got a 2G and I got a 5G thing, and the 5G doesn't seem to be working right. So where did you lose me at?
Right at the beginning of 2019.
Yeah, when they canceled the gas gun.
Yeah, so they canceled the gas gun series, and so at that point we were like, well, what are we going to do now? So we were just like, and about that time, Eddie Nolan from Arena Training Facility was like, hey, dude, you should run a match here. And I was like, okay. And so we ran our first match. We set up everything. We ran our first match. We set it at 80 people. We had like 55 or 60 people actually show up. It was just a one-day event. There was no prizes. Well, there ended up being prizes because Tom Fuller from Armageddon Gear was shooting in the match. And he had brought 2 big old bags of Armageddon gear.
Oh, nice.
He's on the table. We're like, okay. And so we put it on the table, and then William Phoebus, who was working for ADM at the time, he was shooting a match, so he put some stuff from ADM on the table in it. Then it made a little prize table, and there wasn't that many people there. So we took lessons learned from that, and then from there, that's where we got basically the startup for Quantified Performance, because that first match was just, we started out and we called it Nights. And as soon as, because we Knights was going to basically sponsor it, and was just going to put some Knights banners there and make it a company type event. And as soon as we announced it, guy was like, "How many guns are you putting on the table for Knights?" We're like, "We're not doing a prize table at all." And he's like, "What do you mean? You guys just won a $10 million contract. You're not putting a gun on the table, and you're doing a match?" And it instantly, like within like 3 minutes, became a company problem and not our problem. And it wasn't supposed to be a company problem.
Wow.
So we called it a day in the arena presented by Jack and Ash, or Ash and Jack, because when you say Jack Ash, it sounds bad.
I could see how people could mess that up.
Yeah. And I admit I'm a jackass, so I mean that's I didn't mind it, but
them canceling that the 2019 was kind of like a little bit of a kick in the nuts to all the gas gun guys.
I mean, yeah, it was. I can see why they did it, and that they could have done it a whole lot different. I'm not faulting them in it because it wasn't making any money. because people wasn't showing up. From a business side, I can see it. But the reason people weren't showing up is because they were setting up the matches as like a bolt gun match.
Mm-hmm.
And it was no fun for gas gun guys because it was all just stuff I could do with the bolt gun. And why would I want to shoot a gas gun that's printing a minute when I can shoot my bolt gun that's doing a third minute and get more hits faster than I can with my gas gun? So it was just weird. And then so when we started the company in June. And after that first match, we realized a couple things, because on Sunday of that match, we were going and taking down targets. And so we had all these targets. We had this beautiful range facility. We had a whole day. And we just were basically wasting time. So we decided from the sponsorship side, on Sunday we do basically a train up social media sponsor day. And that's how it became a weekend in the arena, because what we decided to do was offer basically, instead of having, we let people go do open range. So if you shoot on Saturday, on Sunday you can go and play on all the stages. The stages are still set up. Shot timers are out there. Spotting scopes are out there. It's just like the match, except for it's not the match anymore.
Right.
So what I would have is, if this was my stage right here, and if everybody was shooting right here, there's just dudes hanging out there and shooting. So that's an opportunity for my sponsors to put up a table if they want to send a guy, put up a table and demo the products.
Oh, wow.
Because I know Sons of Liberty Gunworks makes an outstanding rifle. I know that. I know the guys that work there. They're solid guns. I know the feedback on it, but I've never fired a factory-built Sons of Liberty gun. I have pieces, parts, and I got a lower, and I got this, but I've never fired one. I've never seen down this glass. I haven't seen down, Joe Bob Scope Company's glass. I don't know what it looks like. And you go to the gun show and you're like, oh, that's a really nice scope, because you got a 4-power magnification and those bright lights and everything's perfect. So basically what it allows us to do is, we've got 8 stages, so we've got 8 spots where a sponsor can put up a table and demo the product. A couple of sponsors took us up on that last time. The sponsors that I talked to were just like, what are you talking about, man? I'm like, hey, Sunday's a gun show, except for it's at the stage. And they're just like, oh, well, I don't know what to do with that. And it's because it's new. It's completely, usually they just send product and they're done with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What we're asking them actually to show up. And so, but that allows the guys that are shooting the match basically time to build their social media content, because if you're trying to get sponsored, if you already are sponsored, if you're into shooting, social media is part of our lives now. So if I can't during the match, I can't be sitting there with my cell phone and be like, doing Instagram live while I'm shooting the match, because that disrupts the match. But on Sunday, I can go to that same stage. I can get good data. I can make sure everything's right. And then I can have my buddy hold the thing while I'm going Instagram live, and I can go Instagram live and shoot a stage on a match, during that without disrupting anything. And then the other thing is, whatever I messed up on Saturday, I can go back to that stage. And if I had a stage that just kicked me in the junk, I can go back to that stage and I can figure it out. I can figure out, whatever messed me up, or the techniques that I saw everybody use after I did. It'd be like, man, why didn't I think of that? Then I can go practice that. So I'm going to be better for the next match.
See, that's a good idea. I like that. That's awesome, because you can work on, skills that you may have messed up on, or try other things that other people did to do better.
Yeah, and you can try it faster. Because some of the stages are, they're usually 10 targets total, 10 to 15 targets. So it's not a lot of rounds. But during the match, you're like, man, I got to get my hits, so I'm going to go slow and take my time. And then I'm like, man, I ended up this many seconds behind. But then on Sunday, you can be like, okay, I'm gonna speed this up a little bit. So you shoot it once, and you're like, okay, try to go faster. And you're like, nope, screwed that up. I can't go that fast. But now you know how fast you can go for the next time you see that sort of situation without doing it under match conditions. And we had people going, hey, why don't you do the range day on Saturday and do the match on Sunday? I'm like, no, I want to see what you got on Saturday. Yeah. I want to see you practiced and warmed up. I want to see what you've been doing.
Yeah,
and then you can tune yourself up on Sunday. So the last match, the one that we ran in October, we had how many do we have? Like 70, 70 competitors, I think.
Wow.
Off the top of my head. So that was an increase from the other one. But I also had about 90 prizes on the table.
Wow.
So and that was, and that was from little things to vortex scopes to, Forward Control's design sent some stuff that's like $40, but there was 4 or 5 of those things, So I'm getting something from Forward Controls. I'm getting a hat from Vortex. I'm getting, all these things. There was price table enough to basically rotate everybody through twice. And a buddy of mine got a Badger Ordnance mount, and he got a gift certificate because they were separate. There was a gift certificate from Badger Ordnance, and nobody picked that up because nobody was looking at paper. And there was full guns on paper, and everybody was just grabbing things, but all over the place because what we did was a random prize table. Some people like to do, set the prize table, and it's like all the scopes are here, and all the guns are here, and all the stuff is here, and all the stuff is here. Well, when we set up prize table, we did it random. Yeah. So it was a match within a match because getting to the prize table and looking through all the stuff that's just random. I mean, there's a sticker sitting right beside a full gun certificate, and a hat sitting, near a brand new barrel, just all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
It makes it more fun than just, I see a scope I want. I'm going to go straight to the scope. Maybe like, okay,
right.
what's there?
I'm not seeing anything. They're like, I watched a guy move a piece of paper that was a full gun. It was a full build, right? And then he moved this piece of paper and grabbed a sticker. And I was like, "Did you already get a prize?" And he's like, "No, man." I was like, "What are you doing? Read the piece of paper." And he's like, "Oh, wow." And
it's like, nope, you already chose the sticker.
Yeah, you already got a sticker, man. Good luck. I'll take that shit if you don't want it. So that was fun. And then Sunday went really well. We had... basically, the biggest thing that I saw from that match is people were not a lot of experienced shooters. There's experienced shooters, but not a lot of experienced competitors. So they weren't going fast when it was time to go fast, and they weren't going slow when it was time to go slow. If you think about the draw, if you start in this position where everybody starts you at, you're doing this thing, and you start here, how fast you move this hand doesn't affect your shot. But I watch guys go, when they go real slow to the gun, then they're like, and they go real fast, and then the gun's jerking everywhere, and then they start hammering on the trigger. And they're not moving their hand fast and getting the cut and then going slow on the trigger. It's where you use that time. And that was one of the big things that I learned, through all the shooting was you have a certain amount of time to do stuff. What you're doing when and where you're applying the speed and where you're applying the brakes and what you're doing slow, then that was it. There's a huge lesson in that. And the guys that shot this last one were slow in the wrong places. So with this next match, and what's cool about the next match is as soon as basically the rounds, the echo from the last shot was fired on the range, people hadn't even been to the prize table yet, and they're where do I sign up for the next one? And I'm like, we haven't even set that up yet, man.
Yeah, we haven't even decided yet.
I want to sign up for the next one right now. So we'd already locked in the date and everything for the next match, but I hadn't done any of the admin stuff for it. And 2 weeks after the match happened, we opened up registration for the new one, and that's happening in February. It was 5 months away at the time, and within 4 hours, and we had 80 slots. Within 4 hours, we had sold 45 slots.
Wow!
By the end of the next day, we had sold like 75. By the end of the week, I had to bump up another. We decided we'd bump up another 16 slots. And as soon as I did that, like I clicked and I put it online, I was like, hey, there's 16 more slots open. They went, up. I had 16 emails by the time that I went back to check the email. So,
holy cow.
And that was a company goal, was we wanted to be able to, because I haven't even got into the other side, I've just been talking the matches yet, but we wanted to be able to sell out a match, or at least get the match enough to run, because you got a bottom number of participants that you need to run a match.
Right.
You got to pay the range. You got to pay that sort of things. You got to make it worth your while to go there. So we wanted to be able to, with one Facebook post, sell enough seats in the match to be able to run it. That way that stress was gone. Because we didn't want what happened to the finale, because the finale only sold 12 tickets like 3 days before the finale.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't want to be in that spot ever. And to basically, I did one post on Quantified Performance Facebook page, one on Instagram, and then I shared the Quantified Performance one onto my page. So it was really 2 posts, one on Instagram, one on Facebook, and we sold half the seats within like 4 hours. So that was exactly, that was what we wanted for company goal, because we wanted to know as far ahead of time how much effort we needed to put into it. And selling out in a week was amazing.
Heck yeah.
But the thing with our sponsors, and we have sponsors per match. We don't have like an annual sponsor. We don't have like an every month sponsor, any of that. Basically per match they send stuff. But what we wanted was, if we're only running 2 matches a year, 2 to 3 matches, that's a lot of time in between time that I talk to the sponsors, right? And, I talk to them because they're friends of mine, and I know those guys, and we talk, randomly, but I'm not saying, hey, check out this thing from Vortex, without resharing their stuff. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to have a members group where we're talking about the sponsors, where we're getting content, we're getting guys shooting, we're able to talk about all the stuff in between the matches. And the whole goal of the members group is to be able to basically not even publicly announce the match, that we sell out the match inside the members group. And of these 40 people that signed up, most of them were in the members group. So that was pretty effective on that for being, 6-7 month old company, or 6 month old company, to have enough members to be able to basically hit that and get that match sold out. And members group's a little slow right now. One of the things I learned from social media is basically about 1 in 3 will actually post something on a regular basis, and you're basically 1 in 10 to 1 in 15, which is really constant posting. So trying to get that members group up to about 300 people or so is a goal. Right now we're sitting about 200, and then but that's enough to get going with our goals right now. But we didn't want just rando people in there, because primary and secondary, if you're watching that, you get there's a bunch of great people in there. There's all kinds of great people in there, and thanks to everybody for supporting primary and secondary. But there's some people that provide no value.
Yeah,
they're not posting, they're not commenting, they're just there. It looks good for that number. I got 50,000 members. It's cool, but
I'm guilty. I'm one of those guys.
Yeah. They're not posting content. They're not asking questions. They're not sharing things. They're just a number, right? So I wanted people to be semi-invested into the members group. That way they would post stuff, because the only way the members group does what it's supposed to do is if it's posted. If one of you guys has a Vortex scope and one of you guys has Armageddon gear, and you do a post once per week, that's 2 of my sponsors that I don't have to develop content for. Because I just take your stuff from the members group, share it onto the LLC page. The sponsors get to see that content. So if I got 5 people that's posting once a week on one of the products that happens to be one of my sponsors, I got 5 days worth of content there that I didn't have to do anything. I just take it, move it over here, and everybody's happy. That guy's happy because he got shared on this page. The sponsor's like, oh, look, Quantified Performance is doing some stuff. They got some guys doing work. And that's the purpose of that members group, because if I can have that content rolling in, I'm providing my own content, but if I have 2 posts a day, one from the members group and one from our group, our little band of people that's, with the company or whatever, that can be that 2 posts per day, can time those. I can have constant content coming through. The members are helping. I go, hey guys, we got a match. The members group, basically, they're coming to match, and then we have the match, right? And the ultimate goal is we have the match with nobody knowing about it publicly, right? Only the members group have it. And then dudes go, hey, I shot the Quantified Performance match, and I got all these prizes, and I got this Vortex, and I got this thing, and I got this thing. Because if the sponsors are happy, they're going to send more stuff.
Yeah.
and I'm going to get more sponsors. So if we keep it inside the members group and I still have my sponsors and everybody's still happy, when guys start posting, be like, hey, I shot the Quantified performance match and I got this scope and this bag and this thing and this sticker and this hat and this thing, and they're just like, look at all the stuff I got. It's like Christmas. People are going to want to be in a members group because they're like, I didn't even know about the match. That's because it was a members only match. And then that just
then you
kind
start
of
building on that. Which I think that reaction, like you said, for it's like Christmas. I think that's every gun owner, regardless whether they go to a gun show. Regardless, it's like Christmas.
Yeah, it's like Christmas, but it's better if you. Basically, the average prize for the last match, the average prize was $125.
Wow!
And we charged $150 for the match, and so there was guys that no matter where you finished,
you
got $125 worth of product.
You basically paid $25 for the match.
This, a buddy of mine got a law folder. Law folder is like $200.
Yeah,
right? Just depending on where. Got a law folder, and he finished like last. So he's just like,
hell yeah,
hey, I did good, and but that kind of falls in. And the other thing that we wanted to do at the matches was we wanted to bring in, because I know it was one of the talking points of getting into precision shooting. One of the things we wanted with it was we wanted to bring in guys that have a normal gun. That just have, if you've been, like I call it the primary and secondary gun. It's a 16-inch carbine or a 14.5 that's got a 1-6 on it.
That's actually funny that you brought that up, because that was literally my next question going to be to you is, how do we poors get into doing this type of stuff? Yeah, the normies and the poors.
and so what we wanted to do is, because that was what, well, for that finale, even though the finale didn't happen, I was buying all my ammo from Atlanta Arms. So I was emailing with those guys quite a bit because I was shooting a bunch of bullets. And I was like, hey, guys, I can't get people. Nobody wants to shoot this match. And one of the complaints is I don't have the ammo for it. And so would you guys want to give up 200 bullets to somebody to go shoot the match? I was like, I'll put rules on it, be like, hey, you have to sign up for the match, and I'll hand it to you at the match, or, because I had 300 rounds. I send them 100 rounds for load development. I'll hand them the other 200 at the match if they show up.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. I couldn't get anybody to take the ammo.
What?
Really?
They wouldn't sign up for the match because they're like, hey, man, I looked at that ammo, and I can just buy that ammo for $250 and not have to worry about the match. So I was like, well, yeah, I mean, that's not the point. But the match is $250, but you don't have to pay that $250 for that ammo in addition to that. So it's not a $500 match; it's a $250 match.
Yeah.
And the only guys that I could get that were
I would have jumped all over that.
Yeah. The only guys that I could get that were interested didn't have a gun that would be competitive. So they're like, hey, I've got this 20-inch M16A4 clone with an ACOG on it. How am I going to do? I'm like, hey, dude, I'm shooting at like 12 and 13 power every one of these matches, so the 4 power you're going to be sucking. I was like, you're going to have fun, and I'll give you bullets, and so it's not going to cost you any money, but you're not going to have as good a time as you could. And so I couldn't get anybody to bite. So what we wanted to do when we built ours was have a spot for if you have 4 power, the ability to get to 4 power or more, you can be competitive providing you have a good solid gun and you can shoot, right? It's going to be much harder down at that end, right? But that class is called general purpose, and it has a cap on it of 18 inches and 8 power. So nobody in that class is shooting above 8 power. I don't care if they're shooting a 6 Creedmoor, 6.5 Creedmoor, 5.56, 7.62, doesn't matter. They have no more than 8 power.
Oh, nice.
So trying to shoot a 1,000-yard target with an 8 power, I don't care what kind of gun you have. The caliber doesn't help you in that.
No.
It helps you with some wind, but it doesn't help, because most of these scopes, when you get to 8 power, the reticle is so big. It's like, it's like you're trying to see, like, shoot my face, and you're just like, that's too much, that's too little, and, it's basically blocking because the reticle's so thick. So if I can't aim correctly, then that's the thing. So we didn't see a huge advantage or disadvantage for caliber on it. But that class, you can show up with your primary and secondary gun. If you have a 16-inch carbine with a match bullet, you can shoot 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes at the outside. If you've got a 2-minute or less capable gun, and you've got at least 4 power available, you can be competitive in.
Nice.
I wouldn't necessarily bring anything less than like 14.5, but we did for the first match. We proofed everything with an 11.5, and I was able to get at least close enough. I didn't get all my hits, but I could get general vicinity with the 11.5 gun with the 1-6 loophole. So 14.5 is good. It's solid. 16-inch gun. We wanted to be able to do. Now you're not going to get all your hits. It's just this is not going to work out.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the way it's designed. Okay. So when we did the classes, we wanted to have the open class, the topping class, and I don't like calling it open, but we don't, I think we call it something else. But anyway, I haven't looked at the rules in a couple months.
That's fine. You're on a vacation, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. We're in an off season. But with the top end guns, basically we wanted you to be able to get all your hits fast, right? The practical precision, we wanted you to get all your hits, but not necessarily fast. And then for the general purpose, you were going to be a little bit slower, and you weren't going to get all your hits. But you didn't have to put any money into the gun, because I could grab anything. If I got a 16-inch gun, and I've already got my primary and secondary gun, I can grab it, I can go to the match. And so I can see if I can like it or not, or if I see that if I'm any good at it or not, or see what these other things that are priority to buy before I start throwing money into scope and everything like that. So I can show up with that one. I'm probably not going to get all my hits, but that's where we wanted it to be. And the last match, we couldn't have paid money to get it to land like this. So the way the scoring works is the fastest guy gets all the points. Okay, so he gets 100%. And then your percentage of your time to his time. So whatever time he has, whatever your percentages of that, we'll just make it 100. It's more than that, but we'll make it 100. So he gets 100 points. So basically, if you were, 100 seconds. So if you were at 75 seconds, you get 75%, and so on and so forth. So the top guy, the fastest guy, was in that open class, and so he got 100 points. The guy in practical precision got 75 or 74%, and the guy in general purpose got like 51%, which is exactly what we wanted it to be. They got all the hits, but they were a little slower. And then the general purpose didn't get all their hits, and they were a little slower. It was like almost, and that's where we wanted it: 100 points, 75 points, and 50 points. So, like I say, with 75 competitors or whatever it was, to come in and do that and basically meet it meant that our rules were very close, and our stage plans and everything was very almost as advertised with the vision that we wanted, and that's where we wanted it at.
Nice.
That's awesome. So
that just came out, like I said, that I couldn't have paid money for it, but it's it's there on practice score, and it's there, and it's and people can just go look at it, and that's what we wanted. We wanted to be anybody can show up to the match, and we want to have the prize table deep enough. We were able to do it last time. This one's going to be a little weird because you got Thanksgiving, Christmas, and SHOT Show all in between me and the match.
Oh, jeez.
So where's everybody's focus at? Last week it was on ham and turkey. In 2 weeks it's going to be on Christmas and New Year's, and those 2 weeks in between those are all focused on SHOT Show prep.
Yeah.
And then after New Year's is finishing SHOT Show prep, and then SHOT Show, and then come back and be like, oh shit, we got a match in a week.
Yeah.
I didn't send you my stuff. So this one's going to be, I've already got a lot of stuff locked in. But I don't think the prize table is going to be as deep as last time. I'm hoping to get it there, but it's just keeping people focused on me, little old Quantified performance for 10 minutes, long enough to do the stuff to kick it out the door. That's the challenge, and because I know we're in full SHOT Show prep right now, So even being able during work time, even being able to think to send an email to a sponsor, and that's me trying to get it for my match. So this one may not be as many prizes, but I guarantee September is going to be prizes just falling out the door, and which is going to be cool. And then, like I say, if you have a gun and you show up to Georgia, you're going to be competitive. You're going to be able to see how you rate against other dudes, and you're going to get to shoot with these guys, because that's the other part of it is, well, a lot of veterans, and if you talk to vet dudes, and I don't know if you guys ever served or anything, we never talked about that.
No, I was medically disqualified.
Same here.
Okay. You'll see these guys, and you see vets put up this picture, and it drives me crazy. But there's a picture that's got some guy, and he's like blasting near in his Afghanistan. He's like, and he's like, that feeling when you'll never be this awesome again, right? And it's just, I've met cooler people outside the Army than I met in 22 years in the Army. I've been out for 2 years, and just there's so many cool people, and there's so much knowledge outside of it, and just to get meeting with those guys, because everybody's like, oh, the camaraderie of the Army. And, I miss the camaraderie, and you see that a lot of times if you see vets talking, about their time in service. And I've got guys that I can text now that we've never met in person, yet I can get things done that I can never get done in the Army. My aunt lives in Colorado, and she's 80, 81, 82, and the city got on her about mowing her lawn. And she didn't have enough money to pay somebody to come and mow her lawn. So I put it up on Facebook, and I was like, hey, is anybody near this place and can go run a lawnmower for like 20 minutes? And a guy I've never met in person drove 45 minutes and mowed her lawn.
Wow.
But that's just the people that I got to meet, on the outside.
Yeah.
And so getting guys together, shooting guns good, and learning from one another and making friends, and maybe get a little prize. And this time we're going to have food, and it's just, basically community building. And then when I get the sponsors there, because that's the other thing, is having that sponsor there on Sunday. Now, you guys that just can't send a text message to the guy from Loophole or the guy from Armageddon Gear. Mm-hmm. Now you get to walk up to that dude and you just be like, hey man, good to meet you. I've seen your stuff and I've used your product and I really like it. And just want to thank you for coming out. And you can do that handshake. You can press that flesh. And there's a common reason for it. It's not at a show. He's not there trying to sell stuff. He's there to support you guys shooting a match. So, and he's just like, hey, whoever it is, just gonna be like, cool man. Hey, have you ever shot this gun? Have you ever done this? What do you think about 65 Creedmoor? What do you think about this glass? And you get to play with this product, and you get that interaction with it. And that's just that's that community building that really what the Second Amendment needs.
Yeah,
is that community. Long-term goal for Quantified Performance, and I know I've been rambling for forever.
No, it's fine.
But long-term goal is, and the reason that we call it Quantified Performance is basically match performance, doing it on video, shooting groups, verified that it's at a range, doing some stuff to it, that sort of thing. What I want to be able to do is basically data mine for the year, basically all the rounds that went down range that people had posted on Quantified Performance, not on my own rounds, but the match rounds, and people putting up, hey, I went to the range and I fired 100 rounds. Here's 10 round groups, and pictures of them. If you could data mine that.
Oh, yeah.
And I could get my voice in front of one of these anti-gun senators or one of these things that are saying these things are only used for evil purposes. I mean, think about it. If I have, 5,000 members that shoot 5,000 rounds a year, and I know every one of those bullets was safe because we have it either on video hitting a target, we had it at a match where we, had a guy watching it to make sure that it was on target, or he's shooting it on the paper, and I can be like, hey, look, here's 2 million rounds that were fired safely.
Yeah.
By these people. Here's their list of their names. By these people. All over in every state, all these rounds that were fired safely. your argument is null. It's null and void. These were all safe rounds. They were all there. They were all done for sport. They were all done for target. They were all done for these things. And that sort of data right there, all the arguments that we're doing, were the clip versus magazine and all the stupid arguments that we're doing, just be like, we could have that. In that group, you could have all these rounds that are fired, whether it's 10,000 or whether it's 10 million rounds, whatever's in the group, however big we get.
Yeah.
We've got those, and we can show that. And that's a valid argument point, because they have to defeat my numbers, because they're quantified. I've got video, I've got match performance, and I've got holes in paper that are real. You have to prove this wrong. Here is all my data. Prove me wrong. And they can't do it. They're just like, oh, well, it looks scary. Well, fucking cool story, bro. They weren't scary. You know what I mean? And so that's what I want. That's a long-term goal. We're a long way from being able to do that. But that's, that'll be something that we can do and we have the ability to do. We just don't have the reach for it to get real numbers. But we get, 5,000 members in, 10,000 members, because primary and secondary between all the groups, I think he's got like 100,000 total members. 60,000 were the same people, but throughout all the groups. And so if you were able to collect that data and and have it in a certain kind of format, and you were able to share that, and you were able to get people paying attention to that, and then you could just drop it, drop it on people. I have no problem going on CNN. I don't know if my boss would have a problem with it, but if I got 5,000 or 10,000 members, I don't need a boss anymore.
Yeah,
right.
But, I would go on CNN. I would sit there and maybe put the calm the beard down a little bit and go on CNN and be like, hey, that same thing. These rounds were fired safely. Here's my stuff. Go on my Instagram right now and check it out. See what's going on. I will put your guy in the members group and let him go in there. Prove me wrong. And like I say,
that's what the community needs is what your guys' long-term goal is, because there is all this infighting per se amongst us over stupid things like the magazine or the big luau or the shit that happened up in New York.
Right.
We won't even get on that.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was the best week ever.
I literally, at first, I was like, "Oh shit," because we live in Ohio, and I'm like, I messaged him, and I was like, "Oh, dude, like shit's about to pop off," and then like the next day, I was like, "I am eating so much crow for this."
Yeah, and the thing that I ran into was, and this is always, I knew it was going to be controversial when I said it, but it's something that has to be accepted. And I put it out. I didn't think about it enough. I put it out in the wrong order. I should have started with what I ended with, but I put up the picture or the video of Princess Leia dealing with Darth Vader in the very first Star Wars, right? And Darth Vader looks at her and he's like, "You're part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away," or however he said it, right? She didn't even blink an eye. She got called a traitor. Okay, you're evil. You're the Empire. You called me a traitor. I don't give a fuck, right? It just
right.
So I mean, and the forefathers had to accept that. They're like, "You're doing treason." Patrick Henry got a speech interrupted by calls of treason, and he was like, "Okay, well, I might as well make the most of it while I'm here, because you're already calling me a traitor." Didn't care. You're going to get called those things. If you're breaking the law, you're going to get called a criminal.
The second part that you put up, I actually liked. When you put that up, I was like, I really like how he worded this.
So they have to accept that. Yeah. If they're wanting to do criminal activity, you're a criminal. If you get caught and it was a felony, you're a felon. That just the way it is. But people don't want to hear that because they hide behind this. And I used to put up a picture of the Captain America shield. I had a buddy make it for me. It was a Captain America shield, but the star was gone, and it said 2 Alpha in it. So I call it the 2 Alpha shield. You just can't put up the shield and be like, "I'm a law-abiding citizen." And you're in New York, where the law says you can't have 30-round magazines, and you got 30-round magazines. it's not true.
Yeah.
Right. And it's integrity violations, and integrity goes a long way perception wise. If everybody knows you're a liar and you're saying something, you might be lying. That's if you lie, you get called a liar. That's where they have to accept. But I got called a bootlicker and a cuck, and what else? A Tory. Somebody actually whipped out the old school term for it, being calling me a Tory. I thought that was some effort.
You and Mike Centola from All Star Tactical had something in common this week.
Yeah, but then when it came out that this guy was a dirtbag, because I didn't care about this guy. I didn't care. I mean, he was in New York, and if he got red flagged, he got red flagged. That's life in New York. I lived there for 10 years.
I'm sorry.
I was there. And I was there pre-Sandy Hook, and I was there post-Sandy Hook. So before you could get away with stuff, before Sandy Hook and they did the SAFE Act, you could get away with it. You had your military ID card, weren't supposed to have 7-round or 30-round magazines, but if I had my military ID card and I had my TA-50 with the magazines in it at the range, you didn't get fucked with because you were practicing your Army shit, But if you didn't have that military ID card, you get burnt down. But I shot pistols because in New York, if you don't have a pistol permit, you can't touch a pistol. You can't lay your hands on it. You can't go to the gun store and be like, hey, let me see that Glock.
Wow.
You can't be seen shooting it. You can't do anything. But I was sitting there one day shooting with a buddy of mine, and we were shooting guns, and we were shooting 30-round magazines, and we were both shooting them, and I was shooting this pistol. And the state trooper pulled up to the range, and while we were shooting, we turned around, and the troopers there were like, oh, man, we're going to jail. This is going to suck. And he was just like, hey, show me how you did that magazine release. He didn't care. He didn't even ask. That's just – but after the SAFE Act hit, they put the cops in a really weird position. And if the cop catches you with it, and doesn't do anything, doesn't enforce that law, the Attorney General for New York is going to personally oversee the case against you. So if you're a state trooper or you're a cop and they catch you, allowing somebody to have this thing, then the state of New York is going to come and burn you down. And you can't beat the Attorney General of New York. If you want to talk about corrupt lawyer politicians, that is the pinnacle. Wow. That's the dude. He's going to win.
Wow.
He's going to win that case, and you're going to get. So you go to jail. You let the guy go. You're pro Second Amendment. You let the guy go with 30-round magazines. You let the wrong person go. You get busted, and you go to jail for that guy, right? So it's a really weird dynamic because I know. Basically, all the law enforcement officer guys that I know up there are pro Second Amendment. They're shooting, they're doing matches. The guys that I know that are professional, they have their law enforcement gun, but everything that they're doing outside of that when they go to the range or whatever, they're using a compliant gun, right? They're not flaunting that they can have 30-round magazines and, collapsing stocks and all that. But they don't want to enforce this law. They don't want to. They're against it, but it is still the law. So you're asking that guy to risk his freedom, his liberty, and because you wanted to break the law. And it's just a weird spot. I know the cops volunteered for it because, they got the job and all that stuff that people were saying and they shouldn't enforce these laws. Yes. But you can't rightly ask someone to go to jail for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what they're asking, right? And they're just like, well, if he enforces it, then he deserves to go to jail, or if he doesn't enforce it, whatever. And, people talk about shooting these guys. And okay, talk about the revolution, and they're talking about shooting regulars because they weren't seeing the British were coming because everybody was British. So they called them the regulars. So they started shooting the regulars. But that was a huge, when you get really into the history of it, that was a huge leap right there. And not everybody was down with it. the whole countryside didn't start shooting the regulars. Like everybody was in the colony was just like, oh, it's the Boogaloo time, and just start dropping flint and shooting black powder at the regulars at that point. It wasn't somebody just turned a switch off and oh, I'm American, get off my lawn and start shooting people. So it was just a harder thing then as thinking about shooting Army dudes and cops now. It was that huge of a transition, but there was a whole lot more stuff going on. And it took almost 15 years to get to that point. And people didn't even want to go then. Because if you look at Patrick Henry's speech, when he did the Liberty or Death speech, was after April 19th. Mm-hmm. It was like in June. They had already been doing the siege of Boston for months when he was trying to get Virginia to enter the war. You watch The Patriot, and it's not factually correct, but the feelings of that time were there. So they captured that. They were just like, dude goes down here, hey, I want to recruit people for the Continental Army. And people were like, we don't want your war. Yeah. Keep it up north. It's not our war. And so people are not seeing the full story with that. And this guy in New York, whatever, even if he had got red flagged, it wouldn't have mattered because the support wasn't there. People were willing to kill people, supposedly willing to kill people, but they weren't willing to go to jail for it. And they weren't willing to get called a criminal. And we're like, hey, you're a criminal.
No, I'm not.
I'm not a fucking criminal. Fuck you. And it's like, whoa, dude, hey, you got stuff that's illegal. Yes. Okay.
You're a criminal.
You're not a criminal until you get caught, but you are committing crimes.
Mm.
Right.
And so, and that's that reality check is, just having deployed, having shot people, having dealt with that, having gone through that thing of, what is worth killing somebody over? Because Afghanistan, they're not wearing uniforms. So it's not like I'm shooting a guy in a bright green jacket or a bright red jacket. I'm not shooting that guy. You're shooting a guy. And there's a couple times where you're looking at this guy and fixing to, trying to decide if he's a bad guy or not, and you're looking through the optic on it, and you're like, that's the guy that takes the trash off the base. That's, Saeed. I know the guy's name. So here you are looking at an optic going, I think that's a bad dude, but I know that guy. So you're trying to decide if he's a bad guy or a good guy. But he's somebody that but he's a foreign country guy. He's just having gone through that process. That's a complete
mind fuck in itself.
Yeah, and there's that mental process that you have to do. And some things, if you're going against the crown, you're a traitor or a rebel. And the movies make it sound, I'm a rebel. I'm a thing. Yeah, not all rebels are the same. And everybody's like, well, one man's rebel is one man's freedom fighter. I got it. It all depends on what side you're on. So, and if you win, because that was the other thing that you got to get to, is you have to win. Because until you win, you're a traitor and a rebel. But if you win, you're a freedom fighter and a patriot.
But it's only if you win.
It's only if you win. So you have to win. But if my feelings are hurt and I'm mad because I got called a criminal, probably not ready to win yet.
Mm-mm. And we have a list of questions, which we're kind of jumping through some. I wanted to bring up the one thing I heard you talk about, the driveway special.
Driveway. Yeah.
Keith, he's busting out the driveway.
So there's two driveways.
Ooh.
What am I missing?
Really nice guns. My wife is sitting here doing her nails, but she's a firearms fanatic as well.
They'll still be around. So driveway started as not really a joke, right? But all things that are primary and secondary start in some place. So we're talking about, and Chuck Pressburg was just ranting, and he's like, I run out to the end of the driveway, and I look left, look right, and see if the war's happening. The war's not happening, so I guess I'll just go make dank memes. And that was basically, running out to the end of the driveway, right? And that's exactly how he said it. He didn't say nothing about I'm running out and there's no cops to shoot. There's no Army guys to shoot. I ran out. There's no fight going on, so I guess I'm going back inside. And at the time, we were doing a bunch of stuff with 11.5 guns. And because we got a customer that just bought a bunch of 11.5 guns. So we're shooting 11.5 guns a lot. And reliability and, the stuff that we did for, the important stuff, like going through and figuring out how many rounds you can actually shoot through this gun before it breaks. We fired 150,000 rounds in 4 days.
Wow. Holy shit!
Which sounds cool, right? It sounds really cool, but when you're firing one round every 3 seconds,
that's a long
for
time.
4 days.
That's a long day.
It's a long day. So there was 5 of us. We all fired 30,000 rounds in 4 days. And
jeez.
So, and we were doing that at the time. So we're talking about we're seeing where these guns are breaking down, and I'm like, hey, if we're gonna do a fight, zombie apocalypse, whatever it is, because I was watching that's the time that show Falling Skies was on.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that show? And it was just any of these things. If I have a gun that I don't know when I'm going to get another gun, if I need a gun. What gun would I want to have if I just can't go to the arms room or go to the gun store and buy a new gun, right? And at the time, with the stuff that we were doing with 11.5s, so I jokingly was like, because Chuck Pressburg has the Roland Special, which is attributed to him, which was really built by somebody else, but he made it famous. So the Roland. So I was like, hey, this should be the driveway special. And man, people got mad. They got butthurt when I started posting about driveway special. I've been posting about it for like 4 months. And then people were just like, this driveway special is so stupid. Blah, 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 blah. Why would I put a magnified optic on an 11.5 gun? And so then we just kept with it. We were just like, we just started pouring fuel on it.
Yep. And I watched it.
and people were getting mad. It's the stupidest gun ever, and stupid hashtag, and stupid primary and secondary with all their stupid specials, and just all that sort of stuff. And we're just like, everybody hates James Yeager, right?
I like the guy. I met him. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, but you know what James Yeager's doing? James Yeager fills every class that he advertises.
Bingo.
Every one of them. He's not having a finale get canceled because nobody showed up to it. James Yeager could be like, hey, we're going to do cartwheels and shoot guns and wear clown outfits. And people be like, where do I sign up?
Yep.
Wow.
So regardless of what he's teaching, that's not going into whatever he's teaching. That's just the business side. The dude is filling every seat that he can advertise.
Yes.
Right? So... I was applying a little of that, and for whatever reason, people buy all this special operations equipment stuff, this SOE, and I don't know if you've ever looked at their Facebook pages or anything.
Oops, I may have some of their stuff.
Yeah, or gotten emails from them, because, any other place.
That guy has the best business model ever.
Right. Yeah. If I emailed someplace, if I called that one when my truck was there tonight, if I would have called up there and I'd have been like, hey, I was just wondering when my truck was going to get done. I got some things going on tonight, and you said it'd be done, and I'm just checking on it. And the guy was like, fuck you, and hung up on me. That ain't going to work.
Nope.
That ain't going to work nowhere. But at SOE, right? And so I was like, let's play with this. Let's play with this negative energy for the driveway special and see what it does. And people were still talking about it. Like, I follow driveway special on Instagram, and there's people still, I haven't even posted about it in a long time. Nothing real, maybe a hashtag every now and again.
You'll have to do that again.
Yeah. And everybody just, the driveway special is a thing. We turned it into a thing, and it wasn't a thing, but it's a thing now. And then whether they like it or not, it's still a thing. So yeah, driveway's cool. The black one shoots a little bit better than the green one. For some reason, this thing, I don't know, it holds about 2 minutes, which is perfectly acceptable, right? But with Quantified Performance, once you started posting 1 minute group pictures and then you post one that's 2 minutes, you're like, man, that shit's just garbage. And it's just, so I mean, I don't shoot it as much as I need to. But basically, this thing effectively is probably about a 20,000 round gun. It's going to run 20,000 rounds. And maybe with a spring, somewhere in there. And daytime, nighttime, because I got the Mark 6 on it with the illumination in it. Just got your old arm sights on it. But so daytime, nighttime gun is going to last me forever, right? One of the things that I did was make sure you put law folder on it, because nobody thinks about whatever reason you want to be running around the countryside with guns and worry about shooting people, whether it's zombie apocalypse, whatever one that you want to go with. You're not necessarily going to be running around in your full kit with your helmet on, looking like you're an American soldier. It may not work that way, right? So you may have to be doing, trench coat thing or some sort of cover garment to hide your gun, right? Fighting Afghani dudes, I learned that a lot of people won't shoot you unless you have a gun in your hand. So you're not showing the gun in your hand in those conditions might be a slight advantage to you. So with the law folder, this thing gets really small. So I can actually have this basically when I'm standing up, if it's up under my arm like that, basically it's about my belt line, right? With that 11.5. So that's one of the reasons for the law folder on it. Law's good people. But you may have to get that gun very small someday. Put it into a backpack. This will fit in a JanSport bag that you get from the high school.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the clear ones like Colorado has. They have clear backpacks. It's like that might not be the way, but it'll fit in a backpack. It'll fit a lot of things. Got a variable power optic on it, so I'll be able to see things. All that sort of stuff. This one does something cool though. That's folded.
Ooh.
So that's coming from law pretty soon. It was supposed to release like months ago, but it hasn't yet.
Ooh.
And that thing, I don't know if that one's combat capable yet, but that'll be a thing because it's still that's the reason I haven't released it yet. It's still like prototype type thing. But and that's kind of the story on driveway. Different guns will shoot better. Like I would really love if this was a 1 minute gun. It's not, but it'd be really cool if it did. But there's always that price for that shooting really good or shooting really long, and that's that hard balance in it. Because I could have a guy cut me a barrel, 11.5 barrel that would work with it, put it together, shoots for a minute, but then it turns into a 10,000 round gun or a 5,000 round gun. So there's that price that goes with it.
Well, working at Knights, and I'm a little bit of a Knights fanboy, but I don't own any Knights because I'm a poor. You guys, they did make a gun that shoots very far, and I would say is a very good gun, which is one of my favorites. It's the M110.
Yeah, M110, solid gun, and people hate it, and all that sort of stuff. Like Army sniper guys hate it. It's big, it's heavy, it's 2002 basically technology. It's 2019. But 110 is solid. It does the Army requirement, which is they measure stuff and they call it average mean radius. Everybody else does these extreme spread groups, but they do this radius on it because they're doing all this various ammo, and that just works better for them. So it has to have a .60 AMR, which is basically works out to kind of about a 1.2 minute. but it'll do that for 5,000 rounds with minimal maintenance to it. Suppressed or unsuppressed, it has to do that. So, while it's not a bolt gun and it's not a snooper sniper rifle and all that sort of stuff, it does pretty good work for a really long time, even if you're a retard and you're abusing it. And
I know a couple of my friends that were in the service would qualify under that category.
Yeah, and yeah. So, but like I say, it's 2007 tech. Everybody's like, "Oh, I hate the suppressor that's on it." We're like, we have new stuff.
I think that suppressor is cool as hell.
it really to go at that time to get a suppressor that does what that suppressor does. It was top of the line. It was like super tech for that time.
And I think that's why I personally, I've never shot one. I've seen so many pictures of it. I think that's why I actually fell in love with it so much, because of how it looked, the old school tech. And now, of course, you got, Knights has the SR25s and everything. And people were making... It's funny, though, everybody hates the M110, but there's several Instagram pages that are taking the SR25 and converting them into M110 clones.
Yeah. Yeah, and the cloner side of it, because guys have been... I mean, I don't know the real numbers, right? But here's just some food for thought. So the M14 was the actual service rifle for the United States Army from like 1959 or 60 is when it officially became a service rifle, somewhere in there, until 66. So it was only the full service rifle for like 6 years. By the time it got fielded, it was only like 3 years, right? And then they switched to the M16. So the Marines didn't switch to the M16 until the A1. I don't think they went to it until 67. But by 69, all the Marines' standard issue was on M16s, right? So yes, M14s have stayed in service because they stayed in the inventory, because they're fully automatic capable. That's why they stayed in the inventory, because they couldn't convert it to non. That's why we kept them all. So yes, there's been M14s in use in very small numbers since 59, right? But we've been in a war since 2001, and the 110 has been the sniper support gun since 2007. So that's 11 years of about the same density that the M14 has been over the years. So I'm willing to bet that there's been as many or more people killed with M110s than M14s. That's just my guess. And
one freedom seat at a time.
Yeah. I mean, the M110's one of those iconic guns. It did a lot of work, and whether you loved it or hated it, it did a lot of work. And I've seen just as much M110 hate as I have for the M14. And there's just as many people that love it as love the M14. But it's a solid gun. It does a lot of work. But if I was to give the Army a 110, if 110 never existed and they asked for that same product now, I've got much better options. I mean, they're just weird things with the 110. And when people are cloning it, I'm like, all right, cool, man. They're like, well, I want one that actually says 110. I'm like, I got you. I got one. I can sell you one that says 110 on it. And everybody's like, yeah, sell me that. And I'm like, all right, it's $23,000. And they're like, what? And I'm like,
hence the reason why I don't have one.
Yeah, well, to get one that says 110 on it, we're selling the entire kit. And it comes with everything that the Army gets. We're talking from cleaning rods to pouches to Pelican cases to soft case to suppressor, mount, optic. You get everything. All you have to do is feed that thing 7.62. And you could have no gun at all. No gun stuff, no anything. All you would need is like something to put pouches on. And you walk in with something to hold pouches and 7.62, and you're ready to do work.
You forgot $23,000.
That's what you're getting. That's $23,000 is you're getting all this stuff. You're getting a Pelican case that you'll never use that costs $180. you'll look at it and you'll be like, I don't have a use for this. But it's part of that $23,000 kit. And so everybody's like, oh, I want one that says 110. It's the only way to get it.
That's the only way.
Yes, I'll get one that says SR25. Yep. Because that's about $4,000. So it's much easier to chew. But one of the things for 7.62 guns on the Knights guns is they're kind of like a Harley that hold retail. There's a resale value.
Yeah.
Because I'm watching Knights guns. Somebody paid, $4,200 for it or $4,500 for it 5 years ago, and it's a low round count gun. Every gun is low round count. I only shot it a handful of times. And they're out there and they're burning it down, doing mag dumps out of it. But I only shot it one day. Shot 40,000 rounds out of it in that one day. But but guys are selling them for especially if it's a gun that's a little bit interesting. Guys are selling them for $4,000. So you get 5 or 6 years worth of use out of them. And guys like puts a $4,000 price tag on it, and dude's like, sold.
Yeah.
All right, man. So they hold their retail value or the resale value, and I mean they're solid guns. They're solid for a long time. Once it goes bad, it's going to cost you because you got to go back to Knights to buy stuff for it. But I mean, it's not for the value, and that's what when people are like, because we get it all the time. People are like, man, your guns are so expensive. I'm like, there's more to it. And I did the math one time using Brownells, and I had to log out because Brownells gives you a 10% discount, so that was throwing off my numbers. But if you just go straight on to Brownells with no discount on it, and because Danny Defense guns get 10,000, 12,000 rounds out of a barrel. So to get to 20,000 rounds, if you get a standard, $1,500 or $1,700 gun, put a barrel in it, and put 2 bolts in it, you're almost the same amount of money as my Knights gun. And depending on how much you paid for it in the beginning, you might be over what you're paying for that Knights gun by the time you get 20,000 rounds. People's like, well, I'll never fire 20,000 rounds. But like, okay, cool. I'm not selling that gun to you. I'm selling you a 20,000 round gun. You're not ever going to fire 20,000 rounds. Value in it decreases. But at SHOT Show, if I'm not feeling like talking to anybody, when they walk up and they're like, hey, what's this gun right here? I'll be like, oh, that's the SR-15 LPR. Retail on it starts about 27, and they just turn around and walk away. just have retail in that first sentence, the retail price for it, and people want to hang out.
Okay,
Yeah, everybody else are like, hey, I got this cool things. I got ambidextrous controls. I got this really cool trigger. It does this and this and this. And you're going to get this much out of it. And people will stay in the talk until you get to retail. So if it's lunchtime or whatever, and it's like, hey, man, yeah, that thing's $2,700 to start off. They're just like, walk away.
Bye. You got any questions you want to go through? Because we have a set amount of questions that we ask at the end.
Okay.
That any guest that we've had on, we've always asked at the end.
What are your thoughts on TCCC for civilians?
On teaching what?
TCCC, the TC3.
Is that the
Tactical Combat Casualty Care?
Yeah. The hard part with that is, and this is why I don't envy those guys that are teaching that sort of stuff, is you have to get somebody that's going to commit to the full level of training. That's always the thing with medical, because you have that. Well, the Army we called it Combat Lifesaver, and it was literally like throw a tourniquet on it, start an IV, that sort of stuff, like a step above stopping bleeding, in addition to like CPR, right? Because the standard stuff is like CPR, they're not breathing, Heimlich maneuver, here's your CPR. So stopping bleed was like on top of that. Going beyond that basic stuff, which people want to go deep into it, and they want to see these things work, and they want to go in it. Going beyond that is, we call it high dangerosity. because if a firearms instructor teaches somebody how to shoot and then they go shoot up a school, there's going to be some sort of liability there.
Right.
Somebody's going to try and sue you. Odds are that people are going to see somebody hurt, crash, something like that, see somebody hurt and attempt to apply medical care much more often than that. So if you don't have stiff grading criteria, don't give them a certificate. Absolutely get training, get as much training as you can. But it's just from the teaching side of it, there's that spot. So if you can get people to commit to it and stay to it and get that knowledge, then by all means. And I give support to those guys like Dark Star and all that stuff that's providing all that sort of stuff. If you're looking for that sort of training, find a big name. It's going to cost you more, and you're going to have to travel. Find a big name, because otherwise you're going to end up at some dude that's telling you to put a tampon in it and not telling you how to do things, and you're just going to get you're going to get really bad information that you're going to try and apply. Even if you're a perfect student, if you get bad information and you apply that bad information, you start doing it, there's liability in there. And if it doesn't work and you actually end up doing something that really hurts that guy or that girl, then you can't take it back. You own it. You're going to own it forever as far as everything goes. So if you're not ready for commitment, just get a tourniquet, figure out how to put the tourniquet on, and be done with it. Last deployment, I'll tell you what, tourniquets are the way. The whole, everything else.
I was going to say, mine's sitting over there for work. I carry one in my pocket every day.
Yep. And I carried when I was deployed. I carried, because I was a platoon sergeant, so I was responsible. It was me and the medic that were responsible for doing that sort of stuff. I carried 5 or 6, and my medic carried 15. That came from a good friend of mine. His name was Tim Sinkowski. Tim was physically fit enough to be in the Army, right? But Tim, when he had all of his kit on, was 300 pounds.
Wow.
With all of his gear. Tim was a big dude. Tim hit an IED, lost both legs below the knee, almost lost his right arm, and his left arm was pretty messed up too. He was such a big dude that it took like 12 tourniquets to keep him alive. You had to put 2 tourniquets, hook 2 tourniquets together to get around his legs, and then to get them tight enough, they had to double up the tourniquets. So just his legs took 8 tourniquets. So, and that's in a world of really skinny people, the Afghanis. They're all skinny. There's very few fat ones that are out, and physically fit Army, Marine Corps, Navy type people, right? So when you get on the civilian side, there's big people everywhere. And so you might run into somebody that's like that. So I carried, and we knew another unit that got hit really bad, and they all had 1 tourniquet on them. Everybody had a tourniquet, and they all needed 2. And luckily the medic had a whole bag of tourniquets, and there was enough tourniquets to get everybody going on. So
wow.
Anything you think about, anything that's going to have 1 tourniquet is probably going to need 2, right? Unless you're in a really weird type construction type thing. But if you're thinking about, car accidents, if somebody's needing a tourniquet in that car accident, the other person that was in that car is likely to need that tourniquet. So now I'm up to 2 tourniquets right there in the car kit. You know what I mean? So that the tourniquets add up quick. Luckily, they're not expensive.
Yeah,
and they last. So prep them, and then try to keep them. You don't have to keep them super clean, but try to keep them semi-clean. And once you've used it, like actually put it on and actually tightened it, just make it a training tourniquet.
Yeah,
It just put it into the training one. It's always good to have trainers. And then, but mark it somehow, turn it into a trainer once you've actually cranked it down on something. Because you don't want to be in that position where it doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if you have one or two, and one of them you're like, oh, we use, oh man, it broke something,
Yeah.
you know, or it stretched, or it whatever happened, you know, when you were playing with it. But yeah, get to training, get as much training as you can on all those things.
Would you say that as well with the medical, the same with firearms training? Get as much training as you can?
Yep, and from different sources, and find ways to practice it. That's one of the things with medical is where you can practice it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there's a volunteer fire department just about everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I have one 3 doors up from my house, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can get with those guys and you can be like, hey, can I stop by and put a tourniquet on the dummy every once in a while? And I'll be like, okay. You know, they're going to look at you sideways and, all right, you know, stop by or whatever. And, you know, or how about the volunteer fire department? You know, those sort of things to practice it. Because, well, I mean, it's just like with everything else. If you invest a lot of money into something and then you never do it again, it's wasted.
Yeah.
No matter how much you like it. I went to a tracking school one time, and it was great. It was 2 weeks. Army invested like $3,000 into it without travel, and it was awesome. And I haven't tracked shit for 5 years. Not a proficient tracker anymore. It's, you know, even though I dig it, I love tracking. It's awesome. I'm not out there tracking. So it was my just investment that just went away. And same thing with medical. Same thing with firearms. If you're going to invest that money, at least practice enough to be in it. And I'm just as guilty as everybody else. But some sort of physical fitness should be, you know, that's great that you can shoot good. It's awesome. And I haven't. The only thing that I've done working out for 2 years now is move a bunch of workout equipment, you know, and stacked a bunch of weights, and then restacked a bunch of weights, and I ran some 5Ks, right? But so I'm not like, hey, I go to the gym all the time. Go to the gym. I'm not saying it that way. I'm just as guilty as everybody else. But you need to have a moderate level of instant physical ability that you can do on demand. And so being able to go run a 5K and survive that 5K is like bare minimum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's 5K isn't hard. It's kind of miserable when you haven't done it, you know. But the physical fitness standards that I'm getting ready to put myself back up to, I use the military athlete standards, and they're not bad. They're not crazy. It's just, you know, kind of a baseline. I think it's deadlift and squat 1.5 times your body weight, and be able to bench press near your body weight, like 1x on your body weight. So it's not terrible numbers. So some sort of physical fitness, the ability to put on a tourniquet, and the ability to hit a man-sized target out to, you know, 300 yards. That's really a baseline, you know, kind of there.
So now, since we're kind of on you were talking about tourniquets and kit and what your medic carried, tell us a little bit of like, what would be an ideal like basic car kit that you would carry, or like a go bag, you know, everyday carry kit kind of stuff.
What I would focus on is stopping the bleed, covering the bleed, and then fixing airways. I mean, a lot of the things that you're going to see, that's what's going to get, well, they call it the golden hour. And most things, if you can stop the bleeding, most things, if they get proper medical attention within an hour, they're going to survive. But if they don't have air and you can't keep the blood in them, then that sort of thing. So they got the little J tubes that, you know, be able to basically get down in the airway, tourniquets, and being able to cover that. I mean, if you think about a car crash, one of the most traumatic things about a car crash is blood everywhere. So that's something that when you're seeing that, you're not going to be able to ever put down. You know, it's not something you can just go in and, you know, select that and delete it. So if you can get the bleeding stopped, then and they're breathing, the ABCs we used to talk about, then that you're better off that way. A lot of people don't think about some sort of abdominal dressing because there's a different technique for doing the abdominal. I wouldn't worry about, doing needle decompressions and all that sort of weird shit unless you know how to do that. But basically, that sort of bandage to control, because, we're soft and squishy, So if something opens up my abdominal cavity and my intestines are coming out, something that's going to be able to hold those in place and keep those fairly sterile during that time. And then, basically being able to do that. Gloves for you is actually one of the things that people forget about a lot, because they get the gloves and they buy their kit and they got the gloves in there, and then they smash the gloves together and the gloves melt together, so they go to put on their gloves, and the gloves don't work. We've all pulled out those rubber gloves that they just
snap.
Yep, I do it almost every day at work.
Yeah, and that's so gloves for you, gloves for somebody around you. Because if you have extra gloves, access for gloves for somebody else, and you're just like, somebody's like, "What can I do to help?" Well, first glove up. They're right there, marked.
I actually ran into that situation at a concert. A kid got knocked out and split the back of his head open, and I was the first one there before any of the EMTs or anything, and I actually wasn't thinking because it was kind of a serious situation, and I grabbed my friend's t-shirt and just slammed it on the back of his head, and I didn't have any gloves or anything. Yeah. And when the EMT showed up, I was like, "Hey, do you have an extra pair of gloves?" And she looked at me like I spoke a completely different language.
Yeah. And that's and gloving up, man, there's so much shit out there.
Yeah.
It's just, and honestly, when you get in, we've all been there, we've all bled on ourselves at least. Yeah. When you get lots of blood on you, it doesn't come off.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
And, and it's everywhere. So worst case, you go and you try to help somebody and you're not able to, right? You're too late, or whatever. You didn't have the skills or whatever. Something happens. So at least I can peel those gloves off and not be sitting there scrubbing for hours trying to get that bad memory out. You know what I mean? So there's two parts of it, because everything that you see, you can't unsee. And that's the shitty part about medical side. Sometimes you got to fail, and you can't unsee it. You can't do that. So the things that you can do to protect you, get the bleeding stop, glove up, get the bleeding stop, get everything covered up, do your best, then everything is kind of, you're able to put it in that box much easier.
Well, we can keep going a little more. We've been doing it for an hour and 33 minutes, so that's completely up to you, sir.
It's you guys' podcast, whatever works best for your audience. I'm used to the primary and secondary ones. We've gone 8 hours or 12 hours before. So.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So where do you draw the line on too much everyday carry gear?
He's really got to think about this one.
So, one, if you don't know how to use it, don't fucking carry it.
Agreed.
Right?
Yep.
If you look at it and you're just like, well, I bought this because the internet said so, and you've never been to a class on it, or you look at it and you're just like,
how does this work?
Don't carry it. And number two, if it affects your life, like if it's like, something like, I can't go to the movie because I can't sit down for 3 hours because I have so much bullshit on me. And it's just, like I say, if you don't know how to use it, don't have it. I generally carry Glock 19 or Glock 26. I carry some sort of blade. I have when the car and the motorcycle all have multi-tools of some sort, and a multitasker or Gerbers or whatever. But some sort of blade. All my keys have one of those little stupid multi-tools that go on your keychain.
Mm-hmm.
That have the, and a decent quality one, because if it says 10 millimeter, you want it to be 10 millimeter.
Yeah.
And
because that's the one we always lose.
Yeah. And, have it on your keys, then more likely it's going to be around. and some sort of light source if you're doing things that or possibly. I don't carry a flashlight on me during the day. Usually have a weapon light, but I don't carry one on me during the day. But I have one like on the motorcycle, or I have one in the truck. And if I'm doing something like we're going to the movies or whatever, because a high lumen pocket flashlight is probably more useful in some sort of thing happening at the movie theaters than your pistol. So, having that, if it's going to be dark, generally plan ahead and have some sort of light. But that's really it. I mean, if you look like a moron because you're carrying all the stuff, you look like you're going on a deployment, you're going out on the beat, then you've got too much stuff. You know what I mean? Have a pistol, have a light source, have a blade. And speaking of blades, take a knife class.
That's something I actually want to take this year.
Yeah, everybody's carrying. Everybody have a blade with you. Have a blade. You're all right, cool, man. Is that a slashing blade? Is that a stabbing blade? Is it a not that kind of blade? What technique do you use for your blade work? Which your blade hand? How you doing this? What are you trying to do with the blade? And everybody's just like, I'm opening letters with it, man. Or that's cool, man. You don't have to have a blade. You can have a blade in the mailbox. You don't have to have it on your person if you don't know what to do with it. There's a lot of little places that do intro to blade technique classes, but you need to have a class. Just going to karate doesn't teach you how to use blade.
Nope.
So one of my favorite blade instructors, two of them. One does all my custom knives. That's Jeff Crowner. He's out of Dallas. He does training on Salat. It's the Filipino knife fighting stuff. And then another one is he used to run MDTS or still runs MDTS. Chris, and his name just slipped out of my head. I haven't talked to him in a hot minute, but I took a bunch of his blade classes up in New York. So find somebody, Sayak, Tom Keir does a lot of good training. Find somebody that's fighting with a knife, and at least take an intro class, just so you can kind of understand, what that knife is going to do to you. So I have my shooting stance and I have my knife fighting stance. So when I'm shooting, my left foot is forward, and my pistol stance and my rifle stance are all pretty much the same. But then when I'm doing knife fighting type stuff, my right foot is forward because I get more reach. And if you haven't been to a class, then you're not even understanding it. You're just going to fight with your knife. And the guys end up, they're like shooting my pistol here, shooting my rifle here, and then I've got my knife. I'm going to do my knife. So I got a blade, I've got a pointy thing right here. And then I've got this hand that's out in front of it. And then this guy, and then I stab myself in the hand. So,
yeah.
And you don't think about that until you got somebody teaching you something and you've got a dummy knife and you're just like, man, if I strike right now, I'm cutting off about 6 to 12 inches of reach, and I'm probably going to stab myself. So,
and that's something. It's something I actually have read into. I don't know what you think of Varg.
Yeah.
But I read his book, and reading that book, he even says that's a whole nother mindset. Is fighting with a knife and everything. Yeah,
the knife work, you're going to get cut more than likely, unless you're doing the attacking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, from a defensive side, if you're in a knife fight, then things are probably going to be bad, and you need to get things done before he gets things done. Right?
Yep.
So, and Paul Howe, once upon a time said that he would rather be involved with the shooting than a gunfight, because the shooting is one person shooting and the other person receiving. Gunfight is they're doing it back and forth. So if it comes to knife stuff, you'd rather be issuing a stabbing than getting into a knife fight. And a lot of people, they carry these blades on. They're like, I have a blade. They have no plan to deploy them. They don't know how to deploy them. And they don't know how to fight with them when they have it. So really all that is either something that you won't even take out because you won't even think about it, or you'll be that guy that's like, back off, man, or I'll cut you. And you're like trying to open the stuff up, and you got it, and you're not holding it right, and the guy just takes it from you and stabs you with your own knife.
I hope I'm not that way, but I do carry a knife every day.
My usual one.
And carrying a blade, if it's just an everyday carry one, buck knife, that sort of thing. This is one of my favorites. I got a Emerson that deploys pretty good, but anything that I'm doing for real, like all of my kit, has a fixed blade on it. I'm a fixed blade kind of guy, but I have folders for that specific purpose of not running around looking like a retard.
No tactical Timmy.
Nah, yeah, and that, in fact, we got this patch made. I don't know if you guys can read that.
Tactical, yes. I try not to look like that when I go out because I don't want to draw attention to myself.
Yeah, and I wear multicam hats, and I wear, front towards enemy shirts, and, all that sort of stuff. I'm not trying to be the gray man. I'm not trying to do any of that crap. I look like a vet, so I dress like a vet. I walk around like a vet. So people assume that I'm going to have some sort of blade or a gun on me. Okay.
Good guess.
Good guess. And I'm a vet, so I could probably use it. So, all right, let's do this, right? But but if you're to the point where you have to have pouches, it's too much. So that's just some thoughts on that. If you have it, know how to use it, and make sure it's charged up, because nothing's worse than having a light that's got dead batteries in it.
Or it's finicky like mine. It's like, yep.
Yeah, it's not working today.
I
got it.
It was a cheap $5 one. I don't use it a whole lot. It's just in my pocket, and if I've dropped something in the car in the dark or whatever, and
and it is, if you can't, and there's so many guys that are like, man, I'm carrying this, and I'm carrying this, and I'm carrying this, and you're just like, dude, what's your use for it? And they're like, well, I don't know, just in case. Do a backpack, man. Yep. Have that shit in the car.
Yeah.
Yep. I carry a backpack a lot of times, unless I'm going to work, because my father-in-law doesn't like me carrying a bunch of crap to work.
So we're down to our kind of two last questions, and then the ones that we ask everybody, which there's an oddball in here, because I'm going to ask that one.
Okay.
So who do you think has the better marksman, Army or Marines?
For stationary targets.
He's got to get specific.
Yeah, it is very specific. The Marine Corps has an outstanding program, but they shoot stationary targets, and they practice for 2 weeks before they do it, right? So what the Marines found, and I talked to a lot of Marines, and I went to their little symposium thing that they got, when they know where the target is,
mm-hmm.
they shoot better. They shoot tighter groups. They shoot better when they're practiced. But if you take a guy that shoots in it basically non-distance range, and it's that, you can't parry, and it pops up, and you see Marine Corps stuff, and it does this. Guys that shoot on stationary targets all the time, as soon as they have like Army pop-up targets, their initial exposure to that, because their timing is all weird, it's in their head, they've got this much time to do this, and my shot process takes me 6 seconds to do, or 5 seconds or whatever, and they know how much time they can take. But when there's these snap targets that pop up, they don't do so good initially, right? But the guy that's used to the pop-up targets, if I put him on a stationary thing, he's not used to holding his position that long, so he shoots like ass. So it's kind of weird. There's unknown distance and unknown when it pops up, and then there's this thing. So I would say that they shoot exactly the same, just situation dependent on who's got the advantage at that point. So what the perfect thing would be is a guy does all the stationary training and all of the pop-up training on low percentage targets that pop up. They do both of those things, which the Marine Corps is actually instituting. They're doing it different than the Army did. They're using robotic targets for it. But they're doing those sort of presentations on it because the Marines were like, hey, we shoot like shit if we go shoot an Army pop-up range. And just because the guys aren't used to moving left and right and doing all these things and shooting at, 300-yard target, a 50-yard target. And then, but the Army guys, like I say, if I put them on that 300-yard target and I go, shoot this 40 times in 5 minutes, they're going to hit it like 20 times because they're not used to staying in that one position that whole time. So it just depends on, that Marine Corps is going to be like, oh, well, I'll shoot Army every time. And an Army guy just beat the Marine Corps at their own little competition. Yeah. So,
one that's kind of a current events question that we had is, what's your thoughts on POTUS clearing the charges for the 3 special ops guys?
I think that, and I didn't get into a lot of details on there because there's a lot of things that were considered war crimes or not considered war crimes that should have been, and there's been a lot of things that happen in theater that probably shouldn't have happened. So without having all the details and being able to see everything with the case, I didn't want to have an opinion on it. Mm-hmm. But what I think that Trump saw, because he got the full briefing, right? He was like, why are we doing this to these dudes? And he's the president, so somebody answered it, right? Yeah. That was it was probably some poor captain that had to come in and brief him. So somebody gave him the answers. And he's like, that's dumb, I don't believe it. And so he had people investigate it. So he had his people look at it and felt that it was wrong and did the pardon on it. I'm just glad that at those high levels they're asking the question, right? Because at those high levels, the chief of staffs and the secretaries of the Army, Navy, presidents, high generals, they don't ask this really specific question, just like, why are we sending this guy to jail? And then somebody else has to come up with a full answer to convince that guy and boil it down into whatever that guy's attention span is, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever, of why we should do this. So the fact that he had asked the question and he was getting involved in it, I think is important because not only for the civilian accountability for the military, but also for the military to be able to see that the civilians are paying enough attention to actually look what's going on. So I'm glad he did it. Not saying that those guys were innocent or guilty, or that they were great people and great Americans, because they did something that was considered by the courts and the UCMJ that was bad. So not saying anything on their character or whatever, but they got themselves into a bad spot that they couldn't talk their way out of. So something was probably some sort of awry.
Cool.
But I'm glad they're asking.
Should I ask
18? Yeah. We actually had these all typed out. Oh yeah, that was my last one before we got to the last 5. So the one question that he wanted to ask: do you have any other non-firearm hobbies, like cigars, whiskeys,
writing novels?
Yeah, writing novels.
So pretty much right now, and this is something that I've been curtailing for the past 2 years. I've basically had, at least for the past year, I basically had about 8 jobs. And everybody's like, oh, I work 2 jobs. I'm like, I would love to have only 2. Yeah. You know what I mean? So when I got out of the Army, I signed a 7-book deal with Vigilant Security Services. There's an M4 handbook that Mike Pannone did. Eric Lawrence and Mike Pannone made the M4 handbook. It's an outstanding book. That's getting ready to republish. It's going to have my name on it. So we're doing basically writing books about shooting. We started Quantified Performance, got Knight's Armament, got my Patreon, got the Quantified Performance Patreon. So really my hobbies right now that don't involve shooting is I ride my motorcycle to work every day. So in that 15, 20 minutes, now that we moved to this nice red background room rental that I can't paint, but so I get about 15 minutes on the way to work and about 15 minutes on the way home. Sometimes
Detours happen.
Yeah. Well, I've got a nice helmet that's got Bluetooth in it and everything, and it's got a good microphone on it, and I can answer my phone on the motorcycle. So generally in the morning, nobody's up that early. So I generally get my 15 minutes to work, but then 3 days out of the week, somebody's calling me at about 5 o'clock.
Oh.
So I'm doing 90 miles an hour. 70 miles an hour on a motorcycle, and I reach up and push the button, and I'm, talking about shooting things while doing it on highways. So, but I am going to. Well, I realized one day when Facebook allowed you to download all your stuff. I don't know if you guys have ever done that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Facebook stuff, I'm going to download it. And then I'm going to, once I have it in a Word document, I'm going to start cutting all the good stuff out of it. So, and I go through memories, as the memories pop up every day, I click on it. And if there's a really good post in there, what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start taking those and I'm going to turn those into a book. So it's not, It's not talking about, it's talking about all the other stuff. But what I just haven't figured out the format that I want to put it in. Because I don't know if people want to be associated with their answers or their comments, other than on Facebook. So I don't want to put it in a book and be like, I say something, it was a really good thing. It was really profound and it made people think. And I put it in the book and Zach said, so that's what I'm trying to figure out is how to get the comments into a good format. Because I just don't want to make it look like a book of Facebook posts. Because you can get that for free just by being my friend. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can go back through all the stuff. So I'm trying to figure out how to take those really cool posts and turn them into a book. So and there'll probably be some writing involved in that. I like writing, but I just don't want to do another war book. Because I did 52 months total overseas. So there's a lot of Vietnam books that are like this thick that a guy was there like 8 months. So I could write. I got a lot of stories that I could do war book, but I just don't want to do another war book. So I was just thinking about lessons learned, and because that could be stuff I learned about war, stuff I learned about shooting, all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to use the Facebook stuff, but yeah. Basically, I'm either always talking, typing, or shooting guns. But people are like, "Oh, you're anti-second. Yeah, you're anti-Second Amendment, and you don't care." I'm like, no, dude, my entire livelihood.
Somebody put that up the other day on one of your things that you posted. I didn't even comment. I just kind of shook my head. I'm like, oh, this poor soul.
Yeah. If they take away, if another assault weapons ban comes in and they don't grandfather it and they start collecting AR-15s, that would be really, really, really bad for business. But if all guns went away, that would be, like literally, I have no other idea how to make any kind of money. I'd have to go find a job like waste management or something, or ride in the back of a garbage truck and pick up cans and throw them in there, because that's the only thing I can think of.
Take out your anger on people's trash bags.
Yeah, it just lots and lots of money is involved in it, and people just don't understand it because they don't see everything. They just see some random post and they're just like, "Who the fuck is this guy? Bootlicker, blah blah blah." And I'm just like, "Hey, dude, I got $1 million contracts with police agencies." That if I'm like, shoot the police, then I'll probably get fired.
Not good for business.
If I cost my company, a $10 million contract because I was talking about shooting cops on the internet, that's probably going to take away some of my livelihood. Yeah. I would fire me if I did that.
Well, other than the regular questions that we ask for all of our guests, I think that covers all of them.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, well, can you ever have too much flat, dark Earth?
Did you seriously ask that?
Yes, I did. It was on the list. I'm asking it.
you got to have something to make it clash. You know what I mean? You got to have something to make it look good. So, like, this one is all black, except for the FDE mount, right? So there's got to be something on there to make it flash. So if everything is, and you look at the Cerakote gun, speaking of 110s, the guys that are cloning it and they do the Cerakote on it, and everything on it was Cerakoted the same tan.
Yes.
It's boring.
Yeah.
He's like boring. So I'm not talking like FN, like 33 different colors, like a scar that has its own camouflage pattern because they can't do FDE on everything. That's not enough, but you got to have something that clashes.
All right.
I'm not a fan of flat dark earth.
I like flat dark earth, but I think people.
Our bedroom flat dark earth.
Yeah, if you didn't hear my wife, I actually went and took my old Magpul grip to Home Depot and said, I need you to match this color for a bedroom paint. And the girl looked at me, she goes, is that a rifle grip? Yes, I would like my bedroom painted flat dark earth, please.
Yeah, but you got to put some pinstripes on.
We'll have something else to break it up, but just the look on her face was shocked when I came home with the paint. She wanted to strangle me.
I saw him painted it. Sat there for over a year.
Yeah, we haven't painted it yet.
But I mean, you could have picked a color like this on the back wall here.
That lovely terracotta red.
Yeah, it's just, and the whole room. So basically this room that I'm in right now is the size of a 2-car garage because it's on top of the garage.
Oh wow!
So it's a good sized room, which means there's an ass load of this fucking color everywhere. And there's no. I walked in here and I was just like, man, what a waste of a good room. So after we're here for a few months, I'm going to ask him if we can possibly paint this room because it is.
Yeah.
I put up a big banner behind me, but the camera, goes past it. And it's just,
Our first apartment, the blue room.
Oh yeah, God no, yeah. She just reminded me our first no, that was the second apartment. The second apartment had a robin's egg blue room, and we couldn't paint it. No, and I'm like, oh my God, this is hideous. Like that was our storage room. Like nobody went in it. We just shoved all our shit in it. Well, I mean, I'll ask these last questions, and then we can end the show. And if you want to hang out and BS for a little bit, we can. But the normal question, since you're more of a gun guy, we broke it down even further. Favorite firearm, favorite caliber, and favorite optic.
So, favorite caliber is easy. 5.56. Just because I can do and have done so much with 5.56, and it's not abusive. If you don't like 5.56 on like human type targets, get some 8.55A1, and you'll be basically 8.55A1 out of a 14.5 inch gun is hitting about like a 7.62 at 200 yards.
Damn.
200 yards side by side, a 7.62 ball round and an 8.55A1 is you're going to get the same sort of damage.
Wow.
But you're not having to shoot a 7.62 gun. Probably personal favorite is the rest of this gun. So this one, it was on the Facebook for a while, trying to get the light on it. Basically, I spent about 3 years trying to get everything on the gun the way I wanted it. Like perfect balance, perfect recoil, perfect trigger, and it was hodgepodge of parts. And then I got linked up with my brother from another mother, Russell Allen, who was building guns. And I was like, hey, dude, here's this gun that is ugly. And it's been apart about 30,000 times. Shoot this gun and build me a brand new one that feels just like it. But I wanted to be kind of a multicam and have some of these logos on it for another company that I was involved with. And Russell built the gun, and it was exactly as advertised. It was a brand new gun, perfect balance on it, perfect trigger on it, perfect paint scheme. I always do a project name. So the project name was Red Dirt, because I was in Georgia at the time, and anytime you're rolling around in Georgia clay, it gets that red tinge to it.
Yep.
And I don't know how it happened. Russell doesn't know how it happened, but there's spots in the multicam that it looks like it got rolled around in Georgia dirt. He didn't plan on it because he's like, dude, I can't do the red dirt thing. And I was just like, all right, man.
But it just worked out that way.
It just worked out that way. So it was built for me. And so that's why it's, that basically my favorite gun is that one. But what I found when I started at Knights was Reed Knight was smarter than I was. And a Knight's gun, a Knight's 14.5 Mod 2 is even better than Russell's gun. It's just perfect. And you're just like, man, I'm stupid. I could have just pushed the button on this and I've been done with it. And so the 14.5 is in the Knight's gun. And the reason I'm in the match that I'm shooting tomorrow, I'm shooting the upper from that gun. That's why it's apart on my Knight's lower. Main reason for that is I got so used to the ambi controls over the past couple of years that now that's the problem with that gun is it's not ambi. So ambi has become part of my thing. So Knights is high up on there, not just because I work there. It's just because the gun has everything, and it just so smooth. I mean, if you wanted to get real fancy with it, the Battle Comp muzzle devices are a little bit better than the MAMs, I think. So a Knight's 14.5 with a Battle Comp muzzle device on it, probably about the pinnacle of it.
Nice.
And what was the other one?
Favorite optic.
Man, I would have to say that the Loophole Mark 6 is my personal favorite one.
I haven't actually got to mess with the Mark 6 too much.
Yeah, so I've got Steiner's glass sitting here. I've got this. I call it. I know everybody's called Kalis, but I call it Kalis because I'm a nerd. So Kalis is the Klingon, the destroyer. So I've got high end optics like laying all over the place, and other than the Night Force Attacker 1-8, the Mark 6 does everything that I need it to do.
Nice.
And I just keep coming back to it. I got on the Mark 6 train like 5 or 6 years ago. And as soon as I got my first one, I shoot these other things and I'm just like, it's cool. It's nice. It's expensive. It does good on social media, all these things, but man, it's not the Mark 6. So it's just, Mark 6 is so close to being, and it's got some issues, but it's so close to being everything that I need from an optic that it's just hard to stray away from. But I'm a diva when it comes to that. I don't want to call it a rock star. I'm like a diva when it comes to reticles. And I was in a meeting with the the vice president, the official vice president of Steiner, Germany, like the big Steiner, not the Steiner USA that's selling Steiner products, like Steiner stuff. And I was just like, man, this thing is so close, but the reticle sucks in it. He's just like, we spent like a ton of money on getting that reticle. I'm just like, it doesn't do everything that I want it to do. And so
how'd that one go over?
And it's like stomping your foot and just like, it doesn't have this, like a child or a spoiled teenage girl, however you want to look at it. I don't care. I'll take it, whatever term you want to put onto it. And like the Night Force Attacker 1-8, outstanding optic. But the reticle at 8 power gets so big that it blocks out targets. So it's really hard to shoot the target if you're trying to shoot a small target and the ball and the reticle is this big and the target's this big. And I can't even see it. It makes it hard to shoot it. It's great all up until that point. And, so I'm just like, I feel let down. And the Steiner glass is beautiful. You can see everything through it. You can read people's minds when you're looking at it, but the reticle doesn't have wind reference dots on it. And so it fails there. The Mark 6 has got issues because it's a double-edged sword because you can't see the illumination unless you're looking straight down the scope. So you have to be straight down the scope. But you can't see the illumination unless you're looking straight down the scope. So if you can see the illumination, you're looking straight down the scope. So it actually helps you get good sight alignment, because everybody's like, sight alignment, all right, cool.
Yeah.
This helps me get sight alignment, because if I can't see the reticle, I don't have good sight alignment. So, but it's an issue for some people because they get into this eye box thing, and they get into this, I can't see the illumination all the time. It's because you don't have good sight alignment. It's just, weird thing. So, but favorite optic, I would say that one. If I had to deploy tomorrow to go back to war, and I could take any piece of glass that I have sitting here, and like I say, I got high-end glass sitting around here, I'd take the Mark 6.
Nice. Well, I think that's about it. Where can any of our listeners find you at?
So I try to be everywhere, and I use my own name for everything. So any type of platform that you're on, if you look for Ash Hess, you'll probably see me or some comedian chick. She's funny, so go ahead and follow her too. Ash.Hess on Instagram, Facebook. I've got a page that's the Ash Hess Pro page on Facebook. That's just where I kind of focus some other sort of shooting thing when I remembered to do that one. And then Quantified Performance, and I got the banner back behind me. I haven't flipped the thing, so it's easy to read. We got Instagram, Facebook pages. There's a member page. And one thing I didn't mention was the membership costs $12 a year to be in the members group for it. I didn't want it to be, we're not getting rich off of members unless we get a bunch of them. You know what I mean? We get like a ton of them, and it'll probably make a lot of money off. But the couple ways to do it, you can go onto you can pay $12 straight up for the year and be good, or you can we have Patreon, and you can pay $1 a month. And that was that investment that I kind of rolled back to that. But that investment, if you're not willing to pay $1 a month to be in the members group, then you're not willing to, do content. So we just want to put a little bit of investment on it. But you can go to the Facebook page and see that, or you can just hit up on Google, get you to Quantified Performance. You can do it a couple ways. And then the members group obviously is kind of hidden behind that. I can verify that you paid your money, then I invite you to the members group. And then there's some things going on there. Anytime I see a social media platform, I at least go and claim my name, because I hate being 1 or 13 or, Ash Hess 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because I'm the, 10,000 times there. Anything that pops up, I don't check a lot of those regularly because they're pretty boring. But all the MeWe's and the Weird Evers and all that sort of stuff that's out there is going to be the next big thing. It's kind of like, the Facebook killer is kind of like the Glock killer. There's all these things that are going to kill Glocks, and Glocks still chugging along, and we're still all on Facebook, even though they don't want us there. But I'm easy to find. Quantified Performance I just looked at it, like 635 Instagram followers. And we're trying to get those numbers up, because I don't, my follower numbers are whatever, but when it comes to getting sponsors, those followers and that influence numbers help. So
yes, it does.
if you can go hit Quantified Performance on the Instagram and on the Facebook, that'd be awesome. I would appreciate that.
You just did that?
Yeah, apparently I wasn't already following it. I'm surprised.
That's just and Instagram takes so much time to build up unless you buy them.
Yeah.
It takes so much time to get organic stuff, because I've got, I think it's 41 or 4,200 followers on my Instagram. But I've been working on getting followers for a long time, because I got this book deal.
Yeah. That
I need to advertise to sell books. So the more people that's on my Instagram will be like, hey, I wrote a book. Go buy the book. They'll at least see it. But building up followers on some of these platforms is just crazy. Facebook was actually pretty fast. We're like 1,200 or something like that on the Facebook, but the Instagram just so slow.
I can vouch for that, because I run our Instagram page for the podcast, and then I have mine for my media page for the Tactical Gnome, which I'll have to explain to you sometime how I got that whole nickname. But it's not an easy thing because you got to do that, and of course the wife is constantly. I hear a lot of this in my ear because my phone this whole past week. We have you on. I have a couple other people lined up for the last week. My phone has not stopped once I've hit home from work, and I'm like, I can't answer stuff at work. I am breaking the law by texting and driving and talking to people, and then I get home, and then everybody replies all at once, and I'm just like,
and that's my one of my jobs is I post on social media for I Gotta Solutions. I post for 4 automotive forums, and I do that 3 times a day. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook. It's like I'll be sitting there, my wife will be looking over, and I'm on my phone. She goes, "Are you working or are you playing?" I said, "Right now I'm working." And give me 5 minutes, and I'll be playing.
The sad thing is social media is a good thing, but it's also the downfall of society.
Yeah, and so what I started, I had my own Patreon, and we had Quantified Performance that we weren't doing anything on Patreon, and it just got to the point where if I did a post, like I went to the range today, and I shot 200 rounds. I had to divide those rounds up. What I learned in this group, that's like I'm making content for Ash Hess's Patreon. Now I'm making content for Quantified Performance Patreon. Now I'm making content for Quantified's Instagram. Now I'm making content for the members group. Now I'm making my own content. And now I'm making this thing. And now I'm making this thing. So it was just, so what I'm doing is on the 1st of January, I'm shutting down most of my Patreon. I'm going to leave like one $5 tier. And it's just going to be for me to go rant where I couldn't rant on Facebook or whatever. Is going to go rant, and people that want to give me $1 a month or whatever to hear me rant every once in a while. But I'm shutting that down because I just don't. Yeah. I don't have the time to provide because people are paying me money to get content, and I can't. So I can't keep taking their money, and so I'm shutting down mine, putting everything into Quantified. So I should be able to consolidate. It'll still be the same amount of content that I have to provide. So it's not like I'm quitting a job. Yeah. I'm just moving job,
stuff.
Consolidating.
But I still have 4 books to write. But luckily I've been kind of unmotivated. I'm not on like a deadline to write them, but I've been kind of unmotivated because we haven't published the first one yet. So we're supposed to publish in January. The SHOT Show release, probably give you guys a heads up on that. We're supposed to publish in January. So once that one comes out and it starts actually, it turns from, something that's been in the future to a reality of being a published author. And then I'll get motivated to do the other one.
Nice. Well, other than that, I got nothing left.
Nope, I'm there.
Ash, if you want to hang out for a couple minutes, we'll sign off with the podcast.
Okay.
For the folks that are listening to the podcast, we'll have the video up later with us and Ash. Again, Ash, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Enjoyed it.
Like I said, I was nervous all week. And of course, I have coworkers that are gun enthusiasts, and once I hinted to them that you were coming on, I didn't really tell a lot of people because I wanted it to be a surprise, because this is our first big podcast with a big guest. And so I hinted to them, and like everybody's like, "Oh my God, dude, how did you?" Okay, so I just happened to message the guy. And when you replied back, like, absolutely, like, that was not the answer I was expecting. I was going to be like, yeah, who are you? What do you want? Like, that, I was just like, oh, damn. Yeah. But thank you again. We really appreciate you coming on. And good luck with Quantified Performance. And we appreciate you coming on.
Yep. Yeah, and we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe next time I got space over here that I'm going to put in a little high top table at, and I've got some chairs, and setting up to where I can have like multiple people, like maybe have like 2 or 3 people, there. So one of these times we'll get a couple 3 people here, and we'll come on, and you have a whole crazy party going on.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, yeah. Well, with that, folks, that's about it for tonight. Again, thanks to Ash Hess coming on. I'm Zach the Tactical Gnome.
Keith the Bearded Tank.
Daddy Brigade Podcast. Out.